What's going on, guys? I'm Flow, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how I made Goldcap in Shadowlands. I'm going to go over my thought process, what I did to get there, and hopefully help you guys out along the way. Alright, so just some background info to start this video off. I have my TSM pulled up here, and as you can see, loosely started trying to gold make, let's say early May, around there, and then I started actually really trying somewhere around here, so like mid to late May. And then you can see here, these values aren't completely accurate. TSM is still recognizing a couple of characters on this account that I don't have there anymore. It's showing 11 mil, but you can see right here, I'm at Goldcap. So it took me about 3 months or so, a little over 3 months. I did this all on one server, that server being Illidan NA. So it's a full pop server, lots of competition. For the most part, I did this all on one character. I will say though, it is beneficial to have like multiple characters or multiple accounts. It's not required, but it's a quality of life sort of thing. I'll go into that later. You'll also be able to see here, if I go into my sales, my auctions, most of my sales, well, all of my sales are from current content like professions, but the majority of them are from legendary. So I want to start off this video by saying this may not be the best way or your fastest way to make gold cap. There's plenty of ways to make gold in World of Warcraft. This is just the way I did it. It's the way I had fun doing it. For whatever you're into, if you're in PvE, PvP, if you like just straight up gold making, there's plenty of ways to make gold in whatever you like doing. For my method, it will take some patience and some time. I know you hate hearing that, and the reason being for that is everything I'm going to be doing is going to be auction house related. What we're going to be talking about is legendaries, and as everyone probably already knows, they are a relatively large gold sink to start. So if you have a little bit of like upfront capital to work with, that helps. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. You can start out from scratch. It just might take a little longer. I believe this can be done on any realm, regardless of low, medium, high pop. Obviously I did mine on a full pop. There's lots of competition on this server. The thing you got to keep in mind is the higher pop your server, chances are the more work you're going to have to put in. And what do I mean by that? I mean you're going to have to cancel scan. You can play around with it on your realm because every realm is going to be different. Post your items up and then cancel scan, kind of get a feel for how long it takes you to be undercut, what items be undercut, so on and so forth. On a full pop, you're pretty much going to have to cancel scan like back to back to back. There's just no real way around it. There's a lot of people trying to do what you will be doing or what I was doing, so the competition is just going to be really high. Alright, so let's get into it. How did I start out? So my thought process with starting out is I wanted to mainly do it with one character. And how was I going to do that with one character covering the most bases, right? So I started looking at the professions, and then I decided, one, I'm going to pick jewel crafting because jewel crafting covers literally every class, because every class wears necklaces and rings. And for my second profession, I just wanted to pick the one that's going to cover the most classes. So that being said, I went with leatherworking, covering 6 classes. That being DH, Druid, Monk, Rogue, Hunter, and Shaman. Because with leatherworking, you're creating leather and mail. I want to also say this is not the route you have to go. It's just the route I chose to take. You can probably do this with any profession you choose. It shouldn't matter too much. I just wanted to cover the most. Okay, so you have your 2 professions picked out. What do you want to do now? What you want to do now is you want to level your professions to max. These are relatively simple and super cheap to do. For me, I just used a website called WoW Professions. It's a pretty straightforward guide, just gives you the easiest route to level up your professions for the least cost. Okay, so now you have your professions leveled up. They're all max level, just looking like this. Actually, I'm going to clear that out, but you have everything leveled up, right? So what are you going to do now? Well, now you need to know what you can craft, essentially. We're going to ignore legendaries for now, but if you go down to like the crafted gear here, the leather, the mail, weapons, things like that, you're going to see some values in green, some values in red. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to basically craft everything that is going to be profitable. Okay? This is to just start out, get some gold coming in. these weapons and this armor, like you can see the sale rate on these, they may not be huge profits, but they do sell, and they sell relatively quickly for gear. So yeah, you're gonna want to craft everything that's profitable. While you're doing this, what you're gonna want to do as well is you're gonna want to set up your TSM in a way that works for you. I'm not gonna go too in depth on this. That could be like a really long video. If you want, I can make a TSM kind of setup video. I just don't want to go too in depth in this one. It'll draw it out too long. So just to give you an idea of like where you can start out with TSM, this is mine right now. It's not the most organized, but it just has to make sense to you. Basically what you're gonna do is, say you're making any crafted items, so let's say the leather armor, right? What you'll want to do is you'll want to create its own group, add all of those items that you want to that group. That can be done, you just hit base group, search for the item, shadow scale for example, and everything that TSM has like databased for shadow scale, gauntlets, whatever, is going to show up in here. And then all you're going to do is click it, select your group, and move it. Okay, so eventually you're going to end up, I'm just going to use this group as an example, you're going to end up with something that looks like this, right? You're going to have all your grouped items that you want to sell in here, and then the next thing you're going to need to do is make an operation for it. So I'm just going to show you a really simple operation here. For this, you just apply it to whatever group you want. For the posting, this is what kind of matters. I set all my auctions to 12 hours. The reason being is I'm on a full pop server. Nothing is really gonna like last not being undercut for under 12 hours, so there's no point in listing it longer. And I generally tend to cancel scan anyway. So I set my duration to the minimum, which is 12 hours. For all this gear, you can change this based on how you want. I recommend just posting one. Chances of you selling like more than one before you get undercut, I think, are pretty slim. So I think just one at a time is perfectly fine. Bid as percentage of buyout, do 100%. You can set a bid if you want, if you're willing to sell it cheaper, if someone bids on it and doesn't do a straight buyout. But I would just leave that as 100. Undercut amount. Okay, now this is important. You don't want to undercut, okay? I see this all the time. I don't know why. People think if they undercut, they're all of a sudden going to get a fast sale, when in reality, all you're doing is hurting your margins and you're hurting the market, right? Always set this to 0. The way the auction house works, it's last in, first out. So, I mean, if someone has an item up for 20,000 gold and you post yours at 20,000 gold, yours is going to sell first because you put it in after that guy's item. This is why undercutting or like cancel scanning comes in, so that you're always going to be the last one putting your item in, so it's the first one out. But 0 copper, don't undercut. You're only going to mess up the market. You don't want to do that. You're trying to make gold here. You're not trying to just get fast sales, right? Things do sell, trust me. So here, your minimum price, this is just a super basic string. What this is I'll go over it real quick here. 100% crafting, so that's the crafting cost that TSM determines for that item just based on your materials. And it's going to be divided by 0.95, which is taking into account the auction house cut. So every auction you sell, the auction house takes 5% of your total. This is just basically like a safety string, basically just telling TSM that you don't want to sell anything for a loss, so that like once you get the gold in your mailbox, you're gonna get back exactly what you put in. What I like to do is, in front of this, I like to say I don't want to sell anything for like 5% more than the minimum. So it's gonna be 1.05 times, or 5%. Times your crafting cost and the auction house fee combined. Basically, you're going to be making 5%. That's your minimum. So that one I consider pretty important. The other two, the max and the norm, they're not as important. Normal is just going to be like, if for whatever reason there isn't an item up of what you're posting, you can kind of charge like a premium. You can set this to kind of whatever you want. I just put 15. And then max is if someone, like, say, tries to reset the market or something like that. You'll notice that people do that sometimes, and you kind of want to post your items to compete with them and not like seriously undercut them, so that you can maybe snag like a big sale. That's kind of what this is for. So just 30 times your crafting divided by auction house cut, and 50 times. 15, sorry, 15, not 50. Don't do that. These I kind of just leave on their own minimum. If it's below my minimum, I won't post it. I've seen some people post it at the min, or sometimes normal. That's a little less common, but post it at your min, and then sometimes if, say the items that are cheaper than your min sell, yours is all of a sudden next up, it might sell, but generally speaking, just kind of wait for it to balance itself out, and I just won't post. If anything is just above my max, I'll just post it at my max, no big deal. So that is just a super simple starter like TSM string. You can use this for most of your auctions, honestly. Like, you don't have to get too in depth. There are people that go crazy with this, but for basics, this is all you need. The other operation I wanted to talk about is like a crafting operation. Here is essentially my crafting operation, okay? And this is going to have to be something you sort of figure out yourself based on like keeping track of how much you sell, what you sell, etc. So for me anyway, you can set your min restock and your max. I just set it to 1. Legendaries, I just make one at a time. If they sell and I'm on, I'll just remake one. And only reason for that being is I just don't like having my inventory full, kind of like it is now. Typically when I'll do a cancel scan, it'll be like 50 or 60 items I'm throwing in my bags, and I'd rather get them all in one shot than have to do it like twice. That's the reason for that. By all means, if you're selling lots, you can set this restock to like 2, 3, 5, whatever you feel like is comfortable for you. Min profit, I recommend saying yes. Now this is going to be what you consider valuable to you. So for me, for any legendary at this point, have it set to 1,000 gold. So this just means that when TSM, when you go in here, you go to like a restock your group that you've made, it's just going to tell TSM if anything is below 1,000 gold profit, it's just, it won't show up in that restock, it won't craft it. So that's that. I have different operations, obviously you can see them here. So that would be for legendaries. There's different ones that I use for like the crafted, like just leveling gear. Things like that, where I have the min profit a little lower. You'll have to play around with that too, kind of see the going price of items on your server and how much it's costing you to craft, and see what's like a realistic profit for you to set. Eventually, it'll get to the point where someone like the lower quality stuff just isn't worth my time to craft, so this just kind of weeds them out. Other than that, you don't really need to like set anything else here. You apply it to whatever group you want. This is just a dummy operation, so it's not actually applied to anything right now, but yeah. So that's going to be like the basic for TSM. Like I said, there's many other videos out there if you want to set up your TSM a little more in depth, or let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video on how to set up TSM. I'm not the best with TSM, so I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I was still able to make Goldcap, but yeah. Okay, so when I started out this kind of challenge I set for myself, because I'd never made Goldcap before, I mean, obviously I have the Bruto, which I got back in BFA, but once I made that 5 mil, I spent it on the Bruto and I stopped. So once I set this challenge for myself, I didn't have really any gold to start with. Not having gold to start with can make it tough to get into legendaries, because initially they are going to be a very large gold sink. But what I started out with is, in my leatherworking, I started out with all this gear. All the cheap like leveling gear essentially. I did this, and I have another character on this account that is an enchanter. I crafted profitable enchants. Those sell really fast. They're usually a smaller margin, like you're talking in anywhere from like 100 gold to like 20s. And also I wanted to mention these. Look at how many I've sold. I've sold 7. I've stopped making these, by the way, just because it hasn't been worth my time, but 140 gold profit, and on my server they sell really well. But I've sold like 740 of them, min price 103 gold, but a max price of like almost 1,500 gold. And these things cost like 80 gold to make on my server. Usually a lot cheaper, but lightless silk is kind of pricey right now. Don't sleep on this one. This one sells really well. Okay, and then so along with all this like base crafted gear, I also did the crafter mark gear. The crafter's mark actually sells really well. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to when I first started. The only one I wouldn't really recommend crafting, or I guess 2, I don't even think this one's really a thing anymore, but crafter's mark 1, the the 117 gear. I wouldn't recommend crafting that. I didn't have a whole lot of success with it, and I just feel like the market for it is very small. Like, not many people are looking to buy 117 gear, especially when it requires you to be level 55 to use. Usually people are just going to buy gear like that requires level 50 so they can start out leveling, and then they'll buy gear that requires level 60 so that once they're leveled, they can have like a starting point, right? So I started out with the Crafter's Mark II, the 3, and then the Chained Isle. Some of these, like, they're gonna require some grinding to unlock, but I do recommend trying to unlock these because they do sell very well. All right, so now that you've been selling some of the like leveling gear and whatnot for a bit, you've built up some gold, you got a bit of bank, and you're feeling like you can start legendaries. Okay, so now this is where it can seem scary, and it kind of is, but in the end I would say it's worth it. So essentially how legendaries work, we'll go to the WoW UI here. Say I pick Bone Shatter Pauldrons. Every legendary is going to have 4 ranks, okay? Every one will start out at rank 1, and each rank 1, rank 2, rank 3 will take 15 crafts to level up to the next rank. So everything's going to be rank 1 when you start. And typically speaking, everything is going to be selling for a loss. There are some outliers. Sometimes prices will change, and you can see some rank 1s here are actually profitable, but for the most part, there's a lot of red there, okay? I mean, that's just to be expected. You're trying to level up to the point of profit, which is typically going to be rank 4s where you're actually going to start making profit. Rank 5s and 6s, mine are a little off right now, and I'll explain why later. But these technically are profitable right now. But yeah, 15 crafts per rank per item, okay? So this is where the gold sink comes. So if you're kind of low on gold, or like you don't have a lot to play with, what I would recommend is you can just Google like let's say best in slot legendaries, and find out for like leather for mail which slots gonna be the most sought after to craft. Start out with them, and then just level them up to rank, well actually I'm going to say rank 3. Because when I did this, vestiges weren't in the game yet, and now they are, so technically you can level it to rank 3. So it means you only have to make 15 rank 1s, 15 rank 2s, and then once you get to rank 3, if you have the Vestige of Origins, this item right here, which is unfortunately gated behind, you need Renown, I think it's level 44, and you need to like do your campaign. But assuming you've done that and you can make Vestige of Origins, you only need rank 3 to make them. So rank 3, you're essentially making a rank 5, and if you have a rank 4, you're making a rank 6. The reason why I'm going to say make rank 5s instead of rank 3s is you're typically going to see better returns and better, like, just in general sales. So again, I said this a lot, but play around with it on your server, see what's kind of selling more. But if I had to guess, I would say you're probably going to sell more rank 5s than rank 3s. So instead of sitting on a bunch of rank 3s that aren't going to sell, I would craft rank 5s, and then while you're doing that, you're going to be leveling up to rank 4 anyway. Again, it'll be 15 crafts, and it does cost quite a bit more. I'll put that in there as well because of the Corthite crystals. So on my server, they are coming down quite drastically now, and I think that's just sort of due to like the initial surge of players wanting their legendaries right away. That's kind of dying down. Obviously, there's some stuff going on with Blizzard. I don't really want to get into that in this video, but stuff like that too is kind of turning people away for the moment. But in the end, all that kind of means that it's going to be cheaper crafting for us. Okay, so now you've crafted up, let's just say the best in slot items for now, right? And now you have an inventory full of rank 1s, rank 2s, and some rank 3s or whatever. I will leave this up to you, but typically, and I hear this a lot, this is why I'm throwing this in, I would just recommend just dumping them on the auction house. That being like your rank 1s, rank 2s. Generally speaking, they're not going to be profitable. Like I said, there's the odd time where something might be profitable, and like if you really wanted to and you didn't want to just sell it for a loss, you could try to wait. But I think chances are pretty high you're going to be waiting quite a while, if not forever, just because there's a bunch of people trying to do the same thing. So that means there's going to be a large quantity of like rank 1s, rank 2s, and there's just not a lot of demand for them, right? At this point in the expansion, most people are like kind of over in this end, the rank 4s, 5s, 6s. You're going to have a lot of supply and very little demand. And okay, there's a motorcycle going on right now.
A few moments later.
Okay, motorcycle is gone. Where was I even? I don't know. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention actually before I forget is even for me right now, like you look at these values here for TSM, I'm not exactly sure why TSM is showing them at a loss, but this is where your crafting operation is going to protect you from this. For example, this my crafting cost right now for Umberhide Vest at rank 4 is going to be 18.7k, and the min bio is actually 24k. So I'm going to be making about 4,200 gold. You can kind of ignore these because when you go to like restock your groups that you want to sell, TSM will tell you if something is profitable. So you don't really have to pay too much attention to this as long as you set up your crafting operation. So that being said, I want to get into probably one of the most important parts of this, and that is going to be you want to buy your mats as cheap as possible. If you don't, there's a good chance you won't be able to compete with like the prices that everyone else is putting up. So how do you buy your mats as cheap as possible? Well, one way, or like I guess the cheapest way to do it would be if you want to farm your mats yourself. If you have another character, let's say you did take leatherworking, you can go out and do like a skinning route in Ardenweald. There's a bunch of videos on that. If you have a miner, you can go around mining, doing whatever. You can, if you need cloth, say you went tailoring, you can do like a 2x4 farm with a tailor and you'll get a lot of cloth from that. But if you don't want to farm it yourself, because that is that's a time investment, right? If you just want to like buy all your mats on the auction house, that's perfectly fine. You just have to try to make sure you do it at the right time. How do you know what the right time is? I'll show you. So here, this is a website called the Endermine Journal. It's going to tell you kind of like the pricing data for any item you want. So what you're going to do is you want to find your realm below. If you're US, there's here. If you're EU, you can go over here. But for me, I am US. I'm on Illidan. So I select Illidan, and then you can search individual items. So let's do heavy callus hide, for example. And then so what it's going to give you here is a bunch of graphs. So a lot of them you probably don't really need to pay too much attention to, but I'd say the one that's kind of important would be the pricing heat map. And what this does is it's just like a week snapshot, and it kind of tells you what the prices are of this item at like certain times on certain days. And so you'll kind of be able to like notice like trends in this, right? So for me, you can see like Tuesdays, generally speaking, the prices are a lot higher because it's reset day. A lot of people are buying mats to try to craft, right? Whereas once it gets into like, let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning sort of thing, the price of the mats drop. And this is kind of where you want to buy. It's not going to be the same every week, but this should give you like an overall trend, let's say, on like the market for your realm. So ideally you want to try to buy, let's say here, 160, right? That's cheapest. But you like obviously you won't always be able to get that. So just try to buy like in around this time. And this is something you're gonna have to monitor too on your realm. Sometimes you'll just have to scan for mats for a while, and sometimes you'll get someone that'll like undercut by like, I don't know, 20 gold. And hey, that's yours, right? So try to buy at the cheapest time possible. And for example, even with the heavy callus hide, since you're a leather worker, you can actually craft these. So let's just look up callus hide, which right now are at 1538, which is, I already forgot what the other value was, but I know it's cheaper than a heavy callus hide is going for. So if you wanted to, it's a little more time investment, and this is kind of where I used multiple accounts for this, is I would buy like the cheaper version of the mats. So let's say the callus hide, and I would craft them into heavy callus hide on another account, on another character. And I would do the same with Desolate Leather. I would buy a whole bunch of Desolate Leather and send it over to another account and just like AFK craft it there into Heavy Desolate and send it back. So that way I'm not losing, or I'm not having like any downtime on my main like auctioning character, and I'm not like, there's no downtime on the other character because I wasn't really using it for anything, right? I will say that although it's not mandatory to have like multiple accounts, I would say it is beneficial to at least have a second account just to do auctioning on. So that account is like just going to be an auction house account. You can cancel scan, you can do all that sort of stuff while you're crafting, you're farming, you're doing whatever on your main account. So that's the only note I'll put about that. It's not a requirement. It's just like a quality of life. It's gonna be a lot nicer for you. Okay, so we went over trying to buy your mats at the cheapest price possible. That is drastically gonna affect your crafting cost and help keep you competitive. Another thing I want to mention that personally when I started I didn't know about. I feel kind of silly not knowing about it now, but I'm gonna put it in here just in case like someone like me comes along and they didn't know. But one of your main crafting mats for legendaries is going to be arboreal shards. Base price are going to be 125 gold, but there's a way to get that down to 100 gold per. And what you need to do is you need to, I believe goblins just naturally can buy it for 100 gold if you have a goblin character, but if you don't, what you need to do is you're going to have exalted rep with either Ardenweald or Bastion. Reason being is because there's vendors in both of those zones that sell arboreal shards. And with Exalted Rep, you get the most discount, which you're buying them at 100 gold. You will notice that these are going to be probably one of your biggest gold sinks, so it's super important that you get that down to being able to buy it as cheap as possible as soon as you can. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about getting mats as cheap as you can, and it's also why I left out jewel crafting for now, because remember I did say picked jewel crafting. Jewel crafting is tricky and it requires a little more work to get set up. This being said for inscription as well, if you decide to take inscription. Initially, out of the box, TSM is basically going to tell you that anything you craft is probably going to be at a negative. So the reason for this is TSM, the way it values like your essences is not very good out of the box. So you need to basically tell it, hey, I can get Essence of Torment, Essence of Rebirth, Servitude, whatever for cheaper if I prospect. Out of the box, TSM is pretty much just going to show these all in red, and I believe the reason is it doesn't properly calculate that you're prospecting 20 ore at a time instead of thinks you're just doing like one or something like that. I'm not too sure, but either way it's kind of irrelevant because you're going to be changing this to show you what actually is prospectable and millable for that matter. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to set up some custom TSM strings. I'm not really going to show you how to do it just because there's a really good video already out for it, and I'll put the link down in the description below. It's a video by a guy named Koya. I believe it's his only video actually, but it's super helpful. Just follow it step by step. It tells you exactly what you need to put into like a custom source, and then shows on the tooltip what is going to be the best way to prospect something. Open up your bags, you hover over like an essence for example. It's going to say in my tooltip my min prospect is going to be 77 gold, and to achieve that it's saying I prospect Elythium. Prospecting Elythium at my current prices is going to make my Essence of Valor cost about 77 gold, whereas you look at my auction house, Essence of Valor is about 110. So prospecting is definitely going to be the way to go. You get your essences for quite a bit cheaper than what they go for on the auction house. With that being said, you're going to want to prospect everything, but to do that you do need to do a little bit of background work to set up your TSM to tell your TSM, hey, you know, I can get these essences for cheaper, which is going to lower your material cost and make your crafts actually be profitable. And one more thing I wanted to say just about buying your mats. I would recommend definitely buying extra, even though it's going to seem like you're taking a hit, because you're obviously you're investing a lot of money into like future sales. I think it is worth it. All right, so now we've got, I think, basically everything covered. With all this, you kind of just need to, something you need to keep plugging away at, because like I said, once you get your rank 3, and assuming you have your vestige unlocked, start crafting rank 5s, and then once you start selling those, you keep making more, you'll end up with everything being at rank 4, or at least the slots that you decided you wanted to start with, then you can craft like a rank 6. So that is, I guess, ultimately the end goal. Keep in mind though, and I don't want anyone to like get it in their head that you have to sell rank 5s, rank 6s to make profit, because you don't. And I want to like use this as an example. Obviously, like I said, these numbers right now are wrong for me just because my buyout price for my Korthite is a lot higher than what Korthite is going for right now. Just recently it's dropped pretty drastically on my server, so I just need to adjust my Korthite values and these will be profitable again. But like looking at all my rank 4s, almost everyone is profitable. So other than that, I think I've covered basically everything I did. You can see here, although this is technically my first like gold cap I've had in person, I've technically made almost 100 mil, but I've spent like 86. So my actual profit's only about 11 million. So that's kind of how I did it on my server. Made gold cap in, let's say, 3 months. I probably could have done it faster, but I wanted to invest more back into my professions to level up other item slots I didn't have leveled, do the rank 5s and 6s, etc. Hopefully this helped you out. I think I went over everything that I did to get to gold cap, all my thought process, what I did, the important parts that I kind of like I knew about but I didn't really follow, so I wanted to emphasize here. If this video was any help to you, or if you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave it down in the comments below. Again, anything I referenced in the video, I'll leave links to those down below as well, so you can use those. Otherwise, I think that's it for me. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. Make sure you do that to know when I release another video. Let me know if you guys want more videos like this, or if you want me to do like a TSM video, anything like that. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for me now. See ya.